All right. I know the episode is back in the saddle again. An Aerosmith song. Uh, we're back on track. Back to the winning ways. We took care of business with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we won our division title for the second year. First time ever we've won consecutive division titles. This is our, I think I counted it right, eighth division title that we've
Yes.
won. Yeah, eighth division title we've won. Going back to the days in the NFC West, we won that division twice in '91 and in 2000. Um, and thanks to the Bears, Sunday night, we are back in the driver's seat with the number one overall seed, which is critical because although if we keep at our pace, we should stay, at least a first round bye. Um, it's critical that we keep that number one overall seed because that means the entire playoffs, NFC playoffs, goes through the city of New Orleans, which is what we want. I have to give it to Sean Payton for that too. Really keeping his team focused. But we'll talk about all that in just a second. Let me start by saying welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here with my somewhat cold, but not too cold partner in crime, Sean Williams. How you doing tonight up there in the frigid north, Sean?
Yeah, well, it's north. Well, at least from where you're sitting, it's north. Doing good tonight, man. We had some trepidation. Ooh, big word. 3 syllable. Four syllable.
Trepidation.
4 syllable. Trepidatious moments this past Sunday in Tampa. Of course, we're going to get into that momentarily. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We want to invite you guys to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And as always, we want to thank our sponsors, Fan First Productions, for bringing you such a quality programming telecast. I can't say enough about how great this group is. But alas, I already have.
Did they cut you a check again?
Well, it is Christmas bonus
Yeah,
time.
I hear you. I hear you. They keep losing my address, even though I haven't moved in, 5 years, 6 years. They keep losing my address.
I told them that you and I got mail at the same place. I thought I told you that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Here we go.
But anyway, as Alan alluded to, we went into Sunday needing a spark, needing a bounce back performance from the debacle that was the Cowboys game in Dallas. Yeah, it's no big secret that the Saints greatly underperformed, and I think I said it all about that, or everything that I had to say about that last week. If there was going to be, excuse me, I'm so sorry. If there was going to be that performance where they underperformed and they didn't perform up to expectations, I would much rather it be right now than a month from now in January when we're making that push towards Atlanta in the Super Bowl. Uh, Dallas happened. It was what it was. I could pick probably 31 teams that I would much rather it have happened against than the Dallas Cowboys. But, it is what it is. It happened. It's done. It's over with. It's one of 16. Time to pick up our toys and carry on. And we go to Tampa, and Sunday morning I wake up and I pull my phone up and I pull up the updates. And the first thing that I see is an update, which is a live shot from Tampa Stadium, and you cannot see from one side of the field to the other because it's raining so hard. And I thought, great. The Saints were able to come out in the first half and perform. I think it would be fair to say they performed about as well against Tampa in the first half as they did against Dallas the entire game, at least offensively. But they were able to manage to stay in the game. They made their adjustments at the halftime and were able to change that trend to an upward trajectory. But that was only half of the day for Saints fans, as again, as Alan alluded to a moment ago. The Chicago Bears did us a great service, and they not only did they beat the Rams, but they exposed the Rams for what they truly were. Uh, they went to the Bill. Alan and I have said this a million times over 2 years. They went to the Bill Belichick School of Tricks, and they took away the best weapon that you have to see, okay, we're going to take Gurley. What else can you beat us with? And the Rams had no answers. No touchdowns, 4 interceptions from the most prolific passing offense in the National Football League. And I think that says a lot to the defense of Chicago, the game planning of Chicago, but that also, and maybe I'm reaching here, maybe people are calling me a homer on this, but I think if you look deeper into it, that says an awful lot about the Los Angeles Rams. Because as great a season as they've had, they're not ready to vault from that flash in the pan to that mainstay that's going to have that lofty record and then get to the postseason and defend it. What do you think, Alan?
Well, I think it was John Hendricks, either John Hendricks or Mike Triplett said this. I saw this Rams Bears game not Thanksgiving night, last Thursday night with the Saints Cowboys game. It was basically the same kind of game plan, and I thought it was the same issues. The Rams couldn't run the ball, and they couldn't protect Goff, and Goff made a lot of mistakes. He threw several interceptions. I think it was 4 total. The passing game wasn't clicking for them. The offensive line was terrible, and their defense, they got some turnovers, but did not play as sharply, I thought, as our defense did against the Cowboys. But still, it was one of those kind of games where the Rams did not look prepared to play that kind of game against the Chicago Bears. And and that helped a lot. And I thought, as far as the Saints-Tampa game went, I thought the Saints came into that game, even though it was 10 days later, came into that game with a bit of Dallas Cowboys hangover. Again, the center of that offensive line, and I'm talking about Pete, I'm talking about Unger, and I'm talking about Warford, all struggled to block in that first half. I think we had 3 rushing yards the whole first half. Kamara had -7. We could not get a running game going. And then the passing game, we had guys drop wide open passes. And then Drew Brees made 2 just horrible decisions throwing the ball. One of them, it was he was trying to throw a screen, but he threw it right into the teeth of the defense because the defense had smelled it out. And I thought the second one, the offensive line, it really just played like crap and let Breeze, Breeze was a little careless holding the ball, and he fumbled it right after the first possession of the second half. So it was just an ugly, ugly performance all the way around. And I at one point I got so frustrated, I said, I'm going to turn this off. I can't watch this. I cannot believe we won, 10 games in a row, and then we're going to lay 2 eggs back to back. We cannot do what we did in 2009 and play 3 bad games and then say, well, that's fine. We'll just coast our way through the playoffs. You can't do that. So I was very happy. Obviously, the turning point of the game was a Taysom Hill block. And I thought the Taysom Hill block woke up the offense and kind of got everyone kind of in the mood. You know, the offensive line started blocking better and they started executing just a lot better. I just thought they were struggling to find their footing in the first half, and I thought they were struggling to find their footing most of the third quarter until the block. The defense played well. Yes, I know Cameron Brate caught 2 touchdown passes, and yes, I know Jameis Winston got out of the pocket a few times to pick up some yardage a la Dak Prescott. But overall, I thought
my God.
What's that?
That's the analogy we're to now, a la Dak Prescott.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying in comparison, you know,
I'm sorry.
Dak Prescott got the critical run late in the fourth quarter against the Saints on that third down. That really, if they tackle him, if somebody makes a tackle early, we get the ball back with plenty of time. We have a chance to at least tie the game.
Our linebacker core broke shoelaces and water boys were in wearing their uniforms and missed the tackles on Dak Prescott. He got the first down. Come on.
So, you know, and once again, an inferior quarterback in Jameis Winston was making plays with his legs and his arm early in the game. And then once we kind of figured out what they wanted to do, we started punching them back in the mouth. And Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. This is why they're a 5-7 team. This is why they have not had a playoff appearance since 2007. This is why they really haven't been a dominant team since, you know, the early Gruden days, really with Tony Dungy's team. You know, the Tampa Bay is what they are. And we saw that once the block punt happened, everything just fell apart for him. You saw.
Let me ask you this.
Well, the stupid mistakes too, all the stupid penalties, and the fighting on the sidelines. That's Tampa. That's who they are.
Well, that's where this organization is at this moment. Let me ask you a question. You're somewhat of an offensive guru.
Huh. Not really. I just watch.
I just saw your eyebrows fly right over the back of your skull. Seriously, though, you're an offensive guy. I said offensive, not offensive.
Well, it can be both.
Well, that's what Miss Debbie told me. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for.
No, she's right.
This Tampa Bay team, are they floundering, or are they just treading water until whatever's coming along next? Are they trying to make a positive move towards whatever is next? What does this say about the organization of the Buccaneers moving forward? I mean, I know what the diatribe is. The diatribe amongst the media is that by the end of this season, Cutter's going to be gone. The entire coaching staff is going to be gone. The new coach is going to come in, and they're going to be willing to jettison Jameis Winston. It was an experiment. It didn't work. It's time to move on from that. Is that an accurate description of this organization at this point?
It's the accurate description of this organization for the past 20-something years. Here's the thing. I mean, this is who Tampa is. Tampa is in that period right now that all teams, franchises go through. Cleveland was in it, and Cleveland's trying to come out of it. The Jets are perpetually in it. It's hire a new front office. Front office hires a new coach. Draft a quarterback first overall in the draft. Build a program. Quarterback sucks. Coach is fired. General manager is fired. hire a new general manager, hire a new coach, draft a quarterback number 1 overall. I mean, I'm describing the organization. Josh Freeman, now Jameis Winston. You know, how many coaches have they had? Lovie Smith, Raheem Morris, that idiot who liked to take cheap shots on, when you try and do kneel down plays. The Schiano. This is who they are. This is what they do. This is what bad organizations do. And I'm not saying this to piss off David Harris. I'm not saying this to piss off, Buck what you heard. I'm not saying this to piss off any Tampa Bay fans. I'm just describing because they probably but they probably would agree with this because this is that's why there's nobody in the stands. They did a 2-for-1 deal 2 weeks ago in Tampa with season ticket holders. They had fewer people show up. This is the organization where the old Saints joke now applies.
Yeah,
man, I had a set of Saints tickets in my car. I left them on my dash. Somebody broke in, left 2 more. I mean, that's what that's where you are in this franchise. And
a week ago, there were people posting on Saints message boards, hey, Tampa is giving away tickets to see this game.
Yeah. There's always been more. I mean, you listen to that game. There's always been more road team fans at the stadium than home team fans. And it's a nice stadium. But it is what it is. Look at Atlanta. And I don't mean to just pick on Atlanta. I mean, Jacksonville's the same way. But you look at Atlanta, there's nobody in the stands.
Why though? They're waiting for the Saints Super Bowl to reach Atlanta.
Yeah. But I mean, the SEC championship game, there's more red in those stands than there is on a Sunday for Atlanta.
Well, that's because the Roll Tide could beat the Falcons.
No, yeah, it's the Georgia fans. They're all Georgia fans. But that's just what I'm saying. It's the culture around Tampa right now is loser. They're back to being the losers they were after McKay left. That 83 to about when they drafted. I think it was 95, 83 to 95, when they drafted Hardy Nickerson, when they drafted Warren Sapp, when they drafted God, I can't think of his name. It was number 55. I can picture him. I just can't think. Derek Brooks. When they drafted those
when he was
guys,
in college, he wore number 11.
Yes, but when they started drafting great players and built a core, that's when people got excited about Tampa again. That's when, people started believing. This organization, this team is full of a bunch of individuals, and that's why you had fights on the sideline between the center and the quarterback. When's the last time you saw something like that on a Saints sideline? You'd have to go back a long time to see that.
That would have had to have been instigated by what was his name? Number 67, Conrad Dobler.
No, 66 was Dobler. 67 was Stan Brock. 66 was Dobler.
Dobler be sitting on the sidelines going, man, he's talking about your mother-in-law.
Yeah, I mean, but you just that's what's going on. That's why that team fell apart. You missed 2 kicks, and the Saints and Ralph Marlboro pointed this out, and it's really true. This year, like in 2009 with all of Darren Sharper's interceptions, this year is the year of the missed kicks. Think of how many games the Saints have won because the other team missed critical kicks that could have won the game for them or closed out the game. And you go back to Baltimore, Cleveland, and now this Tampa game. Tampa missed 2 gimme field goals that kept the Saints in the ball game, kept them hanging around. I still think we would eventually turn it around and start scoring, but you beat this team by 14 points. Whereas, you get 2 field goals, you're beating them by 9, 8.
Yeah.
I can do math. but still, I mean, 8 points, uh, just when the Saints made it 14-11, you could just see, and this is what happens to loser teams. You
Yeah.
can just see the expression of, here we go again. And
Yeah.
we know this, and I can say this from experience because this is what happened during the Mike Ditka years. This is what happened during the end of the Mora years. This is what happened the whole time. Mika owned the Saints. You know, they'd start doing something. You think we're going to steal a win and upset a good team. Something goes wrong, and here we go again. This is what happens to bad teams. So that's what happened to Tampa. I mean, really, honestly, they kept giving us opportunities to win the game, and we just had to take them. We took them, and we walked out with a win, a division championship, and now we're in the first. We have the number 1 seed in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. We just got to keep winning. We keep winning these next 3 games. We've got it locked up. There's nothing the Rams can do if we win the rest of our games.
Okay.
That's the best part.
While I get to this this diatribe that I'm about to go on that I have absolutely no clue of, can you pull up what the Rams have remaining on their schedule?
I think it's the 49ers and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. For the Saints, it's going to be 2 divisional matchups. The Carolina Panthers, and sandwiched in between is going to be the suddenly.
They have the Eagles next week. They have the Eagles this Sunday. Eagles this Sunday. Then they play the Cardinals Christmas Eve. Well, Christmas Eve. Then they play the 49ers.
January the Eagles played real good. In February they were smoking.
Well, the Eagles got jobbed by the Cowboys, but that's a totally different game.
Yeah,
hey, man, I'll tell you what. Avery and I were going on about this back and forth as we were watching this game. The officiating this year sucks, okay, in general. I don't care what game you're talking about. The officiating
bilaterally across the board, across all denominations, all team affiliations. The officiating in this calendar year is atrocious.
You even have Mike Pereira. You have my favorite friggin' ref in the whole wide world, Jeff Triplett. You have what's the name of the guy who's over there on CBS? Was the head of officials after. Thank you. All of them saying that they made a mistake. The refs are having a hard time. They're not doing a good job. Last night was another example with the clear leverage play where the Seahawks player puts his arms on another player to hop over the offensive line to make the block, and they throw a flag and pick it up. The Eagles tight end gets called for offensive pass interference within the 5-yard bump zone. Doesn't even extend his arm, just pushes the guy out the way. Offensive pass interference, taking a touchdown off the board. We already know about the Kamara hit, and I think the Cowboys are benefiting from these damn penalties, and that's somehow how the Cowboys are even making it to the playoffs. That's why I want Dallas, in the Dome for the first divisional round game, because I want to beat their ass at home, embarrass them at home in our Dome. I want to hear Stand Up and Crunk so many times that Dallas Cowboy fans start going into nightmares just imagining hearing that song again. I want to break the Bears record they did against the Redskins back in 1943? Hang on, what year was that? It was the year they introduced the the T formation over the single wing. Let me see what year that was. That was
48, wasn't it?
73-0 Bears over Washington. See what year that was.
37.
1940. 1940 NFL championship game. The Bears beat the Redskins 73-0. And if I remember right, that was the first time the Bears did the T formation. I'm not sure if it was a T or a single wing. I have to go back and watch that again. But it was 73-0. That was the biggest blowout in NFL championship history. So
that was the sneaker game, wasn't it?
No, sneaker game was the Browns Giants because the field was frozen at the Polo Grounds. So they changed the tennis shoes and they got traction. And the Giants was slipping all over the place.
I felt intelligent for like 3 seconds, and he said, "No, that was me." And I was going, "Oh, well, you know it." Okay,
I know that one. I do know that one.
Anyway,
there's a beautiful shot of some guy. You got to find it. You got to just Google. I think it's Otto Graham gets punched, but it's a shot because Otto Graham has no face mask on. Paul Brown hadn't given him a face mask yet. But man, you see this punch, and his face is all, it's like, ooh, and you see the face all twisted, and it's just the way they used to tackle back then. It was awesome. It's a beautiful shot, and it really showed how violent that game
I would tend to believe that awesome would be depending on your proximity
to
play at the time.
But that's the sneakers game.
Yeah,
that's a famous 1934. You were right. 1934. I was right. The Polo Grounds, but it was the Giants and the Bears.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. I was right about the location and one of the teams, but I thought when the Giants beat the Bears. Yeah, it was because the Polo Ground field froze and they wore tennis shoes.
So you're saying we were both right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now,
as the Browns game.
As the cameras roll, can you repeat that? No,
we were both right.
I'm not nearly as adept and up to date as Alan is on this stuff, but man, the history of this league, I'm so enraptured by all that.
Well, here's the thing too. I bought a lot of NFL films stuff, and I taped a lot of stuff back when ESPN used to be good. And there's a show. It's still on YouTube. You can find it. 75 Seasons, History of the NFL. It goes through a lot of these things. They go pretty quickly through it, but that's something that was really good. And we're about to approach the 100th season of the NFL. Next year will be 100 years.
Wow.
And 75 seasons in 1995. And it's they go through those early days and you learn why it's called a gridiron, why what the struggles that professional football went through, who Red Grange was and his impact on the NFL. And really, the NFL did not become as popular as it is today until the 1960s. And it just so happens that NFL films took off about that same time. And that was a perfect marriage right there because they were documenting and showing the game in a dramatic fashion just as the game was taking off. So you had a combination of both cinema and live drama that was just perfect for a media age that was coming about as television got to be popular. We started broadcasting more and more sporting events. All these factors are coming in. So, that's what makes these games. That's what made the league what it is. I mean, it's so you only learn.
I mean, it's all about accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
If you can take a 24-hour time period and encapsulate it into a 5-minute video, that's going to be what sells in this day and age right here on this screen.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I say that, let me get back to this screen. Um, you know, I think that with everything that we accomplished in the Tampa Bay game, the amazing turnaround, I think that making those adjustments, halftime, third quarter, whatever, and being able to finish strong the way that they did, I think that that was a push, not just for the Tampa Bay game, but that was a push towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think they had that mini crisis. I think they every season for Sean Payton, every season has to have this crisis moment where the team sort of galvanizes itself, gets it ready for the big push, the big playoff run, to actually go out there and start dominating again. Because winning, and this is true for almost everybody. Even go back to the 2007 Patriots, the 15-1, 15-1 Minnesota Vikings back in 1998, the 85 Bears, 84 49ers. Any team that's only lost one game, that loss kind of reminds you that you are human, that you can't just show up and the other team will roll over and die for you. You know, the more you win, the more teams start treating you like, well, like Tampa was essentially. We're not going to the playoffs, but I'm going to make sure that we're going to act as spoilers and mess up your season, all your goals you want to accomplish. And I thought the Dallas game would do it, but it seemed like the Saints needed to have some kind of game where they felt like we got to turn it on now. We have to make a play to make the comeback now. And I think that's what that Tampa game did for them. And it'll be interesting to see how they play against Carolina, because Carolina is almost a dead man walking. That's not quite there yet. It may be by the end of the year, but they're almost a dead man walking. They've lost 5 straight, and they've lost in a variety of ways. Cam Newton's shoulder doesn't seem to be good. You've got a defense that, except for Luke Kuechly, isn't playing very well. On offense, the only weapon you seem to have really is Christian McCaffrey. Is this coach going to get fired? The defensive coordinator is probably going to get fired. And they're hoping, I know I've seen this, Panther fans are hoping that Sean McDermott gets fired over there in Buffalo, and they can get him back to be a defensive coordinator and fix the Panthers defense. But we don't know any of this yet. But I think this game against Carolina on Monday Night Football, if we can make a statement to go out there and just kick their ass, dominate them in every facet of the game, by the time the season ender comes in New Orleans, they're dead man walking. That's a coach that's going to be out of a job. It's going to be an organization. They're going to blow the whole thing up, maybe fire the general manager, all the things you were just talking about with Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
Start over again, except they probably won't dump Cam Newton, but it's the same thing. You've got to rebuild an organization.
I'm thinking that it's a foregone conclusion with Tampa Bay, is it not? That it's an implosion, just a matter of when.
It's going to have to be, but they got to find somebody who's better than Cutter to replace him. And it sounds easier said than done. But do they go after Mike McCarthy?
Oh my God! Please no.
But I'm just saying the fans are going to want a name.
Yeah.
They're not going to be satisfied with the offensive coordinator or offensive assistant of, say, the Rams, or the offensive assistant of, I'm not making fun of him, but I'm not, they won't be satisfied with Carmichael. They're going to want a coach with a resume and with a history of turning organizations around, because that's what they need at this point.
It would be so awesome if if Tampa decided to do that, because that would make all three teams in our division except us completely blowing the house up and starting at the foundation all over again. Because as we found out today, Atlanta, that they cut the mountain oysters off the GM, did they not?
I did not know this. What had happened with the Atlanta?
They fired their general manager.
They did fire Dimitrov.
Yes.
I did not know this. When did this happen? I did not see this today.
Oh my God! I'm breaking news. Hang
yes,
on.
You are.
Let me. Oh, dude, you put me on the spot. That was not the. Give me a moment. Yes, they fired Dimitrov. Let me see. Okay, well, we're doing the show, so none of my stuff wants to load.
I don't see it.
Hang on. Let me see. If we didn't have so many friends that put out articles, this stuff would be a lot easier to find. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. I'm working on it. Bear with me.
Okay.
This weekend sports ball, that ain't it.
Well, like I said, I did not see or hear this, but if it happened, then Dan Quinn's on shaky ground too, which I would be surprised, because they are still only 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance. I think they give him a mulligan this year for injuries. I think Sarkisian's gone. I think they have no choice but to fire Sarkisian.
Oh,
but
my
I don't
dear
know.
God. Why would you not?
Well, because
you
want to
have
make
Calvin Ridley and you have
Julio.
You have Julio Jones as wide receivers, and Julio has what, 2 touchdowns in?
I think he's got some more than that, but still, it's a lack of originality in the offensive scheme. That's what the fans have been frustrated with that forever. It is what it is. I mean, I like I said, I think they give Quinn a mulligan for this year because of the injuries. I think Sarkisian is a sacrificial goat to appease the fans, but I think Quinn's on the hot seat for next year. Tampa, I think they blow up the whole organization, start over again. I think Carolina is kind of in a crossroads. If Ron Rivera doesn't win another ball game, I think he's gone. But if he somehow beats us this Monday night, maybe wins one other game or sweeps the Saints, he may stave off the Dogs. But man, I just can't see it anymore. You've lost
Sweep the Saints.
Oh, I know. It's not going to happen. I thought, had the Bears lost Sunday night, I thought maybe the last game of the season was going to be Teddy Bridgewater time, that the Saints were going to rest starters and that kind of stuff. But now now that we're tied with the Rams, it's not. You're not going to see him. It's going to be pedal to the metal. We've got to win every game. And until we lose a game, every game's going to matter because we want that first round bye. We want that number 1 seed. And we won't know we locked up that first round bye until after the Steelers game. Because I think the Bears, have 3 losses or 4 losses? I forgot.
I think they have 3 right now.
Yeah. The Bears have 4 losses. Okay. So if we win this week, we should lock up a first round bye. If we win this week. Because there's 3 games left to play. We'll have 2 games left to play, and we'll only have 2 losses. Nope. I was right the first time. We have to beat the Steelers too. Because we have to make it impossible for us to lose more than 4 games. So, yeah, that's when it's the Steelers. After the Steelers game, we can lock up the first round bye. And with the second Panthers win, we can lock up the number 1 seed. So that's how it's got to go. So the last 2, all 3 of these games count. All 3 of these games matter.
Hang on, I'm still looking for this. This is
okay. All right. Well, while you're looking for that, because we do 0 show prep around here, you know this.
Check your messenger, please.
I don't know. Are you Googling the Onion?
No. Not as far as you know. I don't know if this is a parody or what, but I'm just sending you what I got. Did you get it?
Yeah, that's not legit.
Well, now's the time to tell you live. Oh well.
Yeah, that's. Trey Wingo retweeted it though. Huh.
Yeah, that's why I was like, oh, we got a headline for tonight.
That looks like a parody site.
That looks like a guy off of what's that show? Whose line is it anyway?
Mm-hmm.
That's who that guy in the picture looks like. So
well, that's Dimitrov, but still, I don't think he's been fired yet. I'd be surprised if they did fire him. Okay, MVP status. MVP status.
Mine is secure. How about yours?
Yeah, I think these past couple of games have pretty much eliminated Drew Brees from winning the MVP.
I don't.
He would have to light up Carolina and Pittsburgh secondary because if I remember right, both of those are going to be nationally televised games. I think the Steelers game is an afternoon game. I think the bulk of the nation will see that game, but he's going to have to light them up to really get the train off of the hype train off the rails for Mahomes because once again against Baltimore, they kept re-showing that play over and over again, that no look pass he threw. They just he's the new toy. So, and he'll probably he's not going to throw 50 touchdown passes like I thought he was going to, but he's just a new toy for the media and they're enthralled by him.
Well, yes and no. I think that, and I hate to, let me see, for lack of a better way of putting it, I hate to diminish the accomplishments of what Drew Brees is doing and the season that he's having by saying it this way, but I don't know a better way to adequately describe what I'm talking about. So, I think that there's a really big, there again, for lack of a better term, a really big hype train for Breeze at this point in his career. Everything that he's accomplished, everything that he's done, so on and so forth, to be able to wind out his career possibly with the MVP trophy. And I think that carries a lot of validity and a lot of weight to it. Mahomes, I think that the damage done to him in that Los Angeles Rams game was significant. Um, Gurley,
Gurley's out.
Gurley's gone.
Yeah.
Gurley and Goff, if there was any doubt whatsoever, the game this past Sunday in Chicago eliminated both of them.
Yeah.
Now that begs to question who's left. I would say Breeze absolutely would be left. Phillip Rivers, who's having an outstanding season in San Diego, but I would put before you that in this market of media members, so to speak, San Diego is always going to be a stepchild until they prove themselves to be an heir.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense. Until San Diego is able to take the next step in that line of progression and reach the next level of success rather than just making the playoffs and being a one and done, they're going to be what they are.
Well, that in this game coming up Thursday night against the Chiefs, that is a huge game.
Yeah.
It could have all sort aside from the playoff scenario. If the Chargers win this game, if they make Mahomes look bad, then Breeze may go back into the MVP conversation. But I'm just saying, right now, the eyes are all starry-eyed, that Mahomes is going to have, a record number of touchdowns. He may throw for over 5,000 yards. He slings that ball all over the place, especially because they have no running game now with Hunt being gone. The Chiefs, because the Dolphins pulled that, Stanford Cal play against them, the Chiefs may end up having them one seed of the playoffs. All those factors will work in Mahomes' favor unless they lose. And you lose a big game like this. That makes a difference because you look at that AFC picture, AFC playoff picture. Let me pull that back up again. I had it just a second ago.
That's Pats, Chiefs, crud. Pats, Chiefs, Texans.
The Texans, but the Texans haven't played anybody.
Steelers.
The Texans have not won, and the Steelers are barely hanging on. The Texans have not beaten a team with a winning record this year.
I believe that. And I think that the Steelers are done. They just haven't received the cable yet. Of course, I had to say that on the air. So, there's the precursor.
Well, that's what I'm looking at this thing here. The Chiefs are 11-2. The Chargers are 10-3. So as of now, the Chiefs are the number one seed because the Patriots are now 9-4, which is the same record as the Texans. But the Patriots are over the Texans because they beat them head to head. No, I'm sorry. They lost to the Texans. I forgot. They had lost to the Texans, but that was the first game of the season when the Patriots started 0-2. And the Steelers are 7-5-1, so they're just outside. So the Chargers, this is like the Saints in 1987. The Chargers are 10-3. They could be easily a 12-4 club that has to play a wild card game. It's very likely that could happen. And the Ravens now, and the Steelers play each other I believe. I have to go back and look at the schedule. I think the Steelers, yeah, they've got, I'm sorry, they got the Patriots, so they'll lose that game because they just can't beat the Patriots. They got us, they'll lose that game. Then they got the Bengals to finish the year, so they'll go 1-3. So the Steelers may end up falling to the wild card round, and the Ravens may end up winning that division. So, there's a lot of movement that can still happen between now and then.
Well, yet and still, in the AFC, it's always going to be the Chargers have enough of a team to semi-dominate their schedule, and then they get to the playoffs, and that's it. And unfortunately, like it, disagree with it, whatever, until they do something to change that line, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing in the NFC for, let's see who, Cowboys.
Well, you got a handful of teams. The Cowboys are 8-5, and the Seahawks are 8-5. But I mean, the Cowboys pretty much have a firm grip on the NFC East. Beating the Eagles pretty much sealed that because they're 2 games up, and the Giants, the Redskins are falling apart, and the Giants aren't going to compete for that. So the Cowboys have that division title. The Bears, because the Vikings lost to the Seahawks, the Bears pretty much have that division sewn up. So right now the Vikings are holding on by their fingernails because they're 6-1. This is why the Panthers have a shot at getting to the playoffs, even though they lost 5 straight, if they beat us twice. But we can pretty much kill the Panthers' playoff hopes by beating them this Sunday and just put the nail in the coffin, get the hell out of town, you're done. And the rest of these teams, I mean, the teams that are still alive, I mean, even the Falcons are technically still alive at 4-9.
Okay, guys. Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We're trying to be time conscious.
Okay.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight on Under the Dome. We want to invite you guys once again to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook at Under the Dome Podcast, on Twitter at Under the Dome PO1. And I love you all. Thank you guys so much for being a part of what we do. And with that, I'm going to drop it in the lap of my esteemed colleague, Mr. Alan Ulrich.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, as we, going back and forth and all this stuff, playoff scenarios don't matter. The important thing is we just keep winning. We win the next 3 games, the road to the Super Bowl and the NFC goes to New Orleans. That's all that matters. The rest of this stuff is just noise. It's interesting to watch, but right now that's the key thing. MVP watch. Yeah, watch Thursday night to see how Mahomes does. If he lights up the Chargers, unfortunately, in my opinion, that's going to pretty much sew up the deal for him. If he has a bad game, then I hope Drew Brees lights up the next 3 teams, next 3 games, because that will vault him back over. It's always these nationally televised games that kind of are the thing that pushes the media to kind of go into, okay, then this is the MVP. And I hate to say this too, but it's always the last memory they have. What's the last nationally televised memory they have of the Saints? Losing to the Cowboys. If we beat the Panthers Sunday night handily in Carolina, and we beat the Steelers handily in the Dome, then that'll put Drew back in the conversation. That's the only 2 things we have to worry about. The rest of it's done. It is what it is. Don't worry about who we're going to face or anything like that. Let those teams fight each other out, and we'll just sit back, wait, sharpening our claws, picking off the survivor. That's how it's going to be. We just got to keep winning. We'll see next week on Under the Dome. Oh, I didn't even mention this guy. We got to watch this Sunday to see if this guy here gets over 100 yards. 100 passes caught, 100 receptions. That's another Saints record. Mark Ingram, he's not quite there.
I thought he got that Sunday.
No, he's not quite at 100 receptions yet. He's over 1,000 yards again, but he's not at 100 receptions. He is, I think he broke the record for most receptions by a receiver first 3 years in the league, but he's not quite at 100 receptions yet. That's something to watch for. Mark Ingram is a little over 200 yards away from breaking Deuce McAllister as the all-time leading Saints rusher. One more touchdown, he becomes the all-time leading Saints touchdown on the ground player because he's at 49. Deuce is at 49. He'll be at, once he hits 50, he is the number one guy on that list. So that's some other things to watch for this weekend. So
he gonna work himself out of a job, ain't he?
Yeah, and one other guy to watch for, Alvin Kamara. If Alvin Kamara scores 14 touchdowns on the ground this year, and I think he's at 12 right now. If he gets to 14, not pass receptions, just running the ball, he will break George Rogers' single season record set way back in 1981 with 13. He technically broke it last year by scoring 13 combined, but if he gets 14 on the ground, that's the record. So
I thought you were going to say 14 to this week, and I was going to
not 14.
Carolina's defense hasn't been that bad.
Yeah, that'd be nice this year. No, we won't hit one of those games. I want to save that game for Dallas.
But if we're going to do that, who better to do it against than the Panthers?
Yeah. So there's plenty of individual records to be set. The sack record for single season is still 17. I don't think Cam Jordan's anywhere near that. But I do think that Sheldon Rankins can get to double-digit sacks. I think that number is still within reach. I have to go back and look at those stats again. I saw him Sunday night, but I forgot him already. Getting caught up in another conversation. You got me all discombobulated. Wondering Thomas Dimitroff got fired. So anyway,
yeah, well,
those are the things to watch for. Anyway. We'll talk more about that next time on another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.